Thank you for viewing this program of the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County. This morning, we will interview the 7 2019 candidates for Scranton School Board Director. On primary day, May 21st, registered Republicans and Democrats will go to the polls and vote for candidates in their party. Some candidates have cross-filed, that is, they appear on both the Republican and Democratic primary ballots. Scranton School District has a 9-member board of directors serving 4-year terms. This year, voters will elect 5 members to 4-year terms. The up to 5 winners in each party will go on to the general election in November, whereupon 5 overall will be elected. In addition, voters will this May elect the person to fill the 2 years of the unexpired term. To run for school board in Pennsylvania, one must be a U.S. citizen, at least 18 years old, and a resident of the school district for at least 1 year before the election. Candidates will be interviewed in alphabetical order. Each interview will be approximately 12 minutes long. Each candidate will be asked the same set of questions. Speaking first will be Tom Borthwick. He's running as a Democrat for a 4-year term and for the 2-year unexpired term. Tom, thank you for being here this morning.
I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for having me.
School board members are elected volunteers unpaid for their service for an extremely important job. In 1 minute, please tell us why you were running for school board.
So I was appointed to a board position 2.5 months ago, roughly, and I've been paying attention to the district for many years. Ultimately, for me, right now I have a 2-year-old boy and a 9-day-old boy, and both of them are going to go into the Scranton School District. So while I've been a proponent of education, because I'm a teacher of 14 years and adjunct professor of 7, I also now have a direct investment in the district through my family. So that's one major reason, but I bring a lot of experience to the table. Having been an educator, I know what students need, I know what kids need. And right now the district is facing a dire, dark time. You're looking at potential building closures and program cuts. And I feel that along with my kids and everybody's kids in the district, we should leave them a better education than we had. We should not be leaving them worse off. So that's why I want to be in there. I want to make sure that I can get in there and make sure that our kids get the best education they can get.
Thank you. Tom, what is your experience and or some major accomplishments that are relevant to serving on the school board? Sure.
So like I just said, I've been teaching in public schools for 14 years. That's given me a lot of perspective. So a lot of the jargon from things like IEPs to PSSAs, that's very familiar to me. I'm in a tested subject as an English teacher. So that's very important. Also, I see where these kids are going because I'm an adjunct professor at Marywood University, and I've been doing that for 7 years. So I see what kids need and what they're getting on both ends of the educational spectrum. So that's very important. And then in terms of accomplishments, I've only been on the board in 2.5 months, but in that 2.5 months, I have gone to almost every single PTA in the district. We're talking, I've been to about 12 or 13 of them in that short period of time to take the message of the board directly to voters. Because there's always filters of engagement, and it's tough for parents to show up to things like school board meetings, or they might not be comfortable speaking at a school board meeting. So going to these small, intimate groups and making that a regular part of what a director does has been one accomplishment that I'm very, very proud of.
Thank you. The district is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. In 2 minutes, can you tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed in the contracting for services process?
So, right off the bat, we have a process that anything that costs over, any service that's over $10,000 has to be bid. We need to stick to that. And there should be no such thing as an automatic contract extension. We've been seeing that happen throughout the course of the past couple of years, and we're in such dire financial straits, there's no way any kind of contract should just automatically get an extension. Absolutely not. Everything that can be bid should be bid, because companies are going to want our business. The Scranton School District budget, you're looking at $166 million. So if we're going to contract with any kind of company to provide any kind of service, of course they're going to want our business because that's a big dollar amount for them. So we should absolutely be bidding these things out. It's a no-brainer, and obviously if anyone has been paying attention to the Scranton Times, we're always getting negative headlines because of bidding issues. Well, we have a policy, let's stick to it. And that probably sounds like an oversimplification, but in this particular case, it is that simple. They gave a contract extension when it came to busing when they could have bid it out and possibly gotten a lower rate. You know, we're paying almost $300 a day per bus. That is a massive amount of money that maybe we could have been paying, you know, some other districts actually in the county pay $245 a day for a bus. Well, that savings over the amount of years that we've had this contract could have been astronomical. So there, you know, when you're talking about massive budget shortfalls, things like this contribute to that. And so my goal would be to absolutely end that.
Thank you. Public disclosure, and also called sunshine, is very important to ensure public trust. Do you support regular taping in broadcast quality of school board meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. And so they are taped and they are put on the Scranton School District YouTube page. So that is excellent. I would actually, if the district has the ability, I would love for it to be live streamed. Any kind of ability for people to see government in action live is good. And I understand that it might not be the most riveting television out there, but at the very least, if a voter wants to learn something, that should be available at the moment a meeting is happening, as well as in some sort of, you know, archive like our YouTube page ends up being.
Thank you. What is the appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight over the administration?
So,
2 minutes, please.
Sure. So when you're looking at something like that, you're thinking about oversight. So the job of the board is to make sure that the administration is doing what it is supposed to do. So, for example, one of the major issues that the district is dealing with, and we're hemorrhaging money with special education lawsuits. So, by way of example, the board's job would be to look into that. Why is this happening? What processes are in place that are failing? Do we need to have new processes in place? And then we need to hold administration accountable to make sure that that gets fixed. So, in the short time that I've been on the board, those are the kinds of things that I've been dealing with. Oh, we're dealing with a failure here. Okay, so next time that failure can't happen, who's responsible? Why are they responsible? Is there some sort of structural problem that has caused this to occur, and can we address it? And then, so the board makes sure that administration starts working on fixing that, and then we have to check back. Because just because we say, like, here's what we want, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to end up happening. And when it comes to, like I said, I keep referencing these fiscal dire straits, you know, when we're hemorrhaging money because of not following things as simple as an IEP, then we need to figure out why that's the case, and it needs to get fixed immediately. So our role is to make sure that administration does their jobs, and then when they're not doing their jobs, it's our role to make sure that they correct it. And then if it doesn't get corrected, then we move to the next step and we shake things up. So that's what I'm looking at as our role in terms of oversight.
Thank you. The next question is just a very short answer type question. Are you up to date on your city taxes and garbage fees?
I am.
Thank you. For our last question, which is also your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should voters elect you?
Sure. So when it comes to why voters should elect me, number one, I've been doing my best to be the single most transparent board member, because deep down I want to be the board member that I want my board members to be. So going to these PTA meetings, making sure every parent has my cell phone number and my email address, like, I've been in contact with these people on a constant basis because they care about the district and they deserve access to their directors. On top of that, I have a website, and every week I write up why I vote the way that I vote, because I think voters deserve to know where I'm coming from. And if other people have different perspectives, then I will listen, and I will learn, and I will grow, and I will do my best to do what's best for the district. So in terms of qualifications and performance, I've been the most accessible, I've been the most transparent. And I've also got a lot of relevant experience. In terms of education, when you're looking at when you're looking at running a school, you need to have a background in education. So that's where I come into play. With my 14 years as a teacher, my 7 as an adjunct professor, I know the world of education. And the other thing is, I'm a worker. This has been tireless. I've been doing this for 2.5 months. I've got a wife and 2 sons at home who I'm sure would much rather be spending time with me than seeing me going out and about. But I'm making sure that my kids have a good education. And by extension, that means I'm making sure that your kids have a good education. That's why I'm here, and that's why I believe I deserve your vote.
Thank you. And we have been speaking to Tom Borthwick.
Thanks for having me.
Speaking next will be Sarah E. Cruz, who has cross-filed as both a Republican and a Democrat. Thank you for being here this morning, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to you for giving me the opportunity to speak about my candidacy.
Great. School board members are elected volunteers, unpaid for their service for an extremely important job. In 1 minute, please tell us why you are running for school board.
Okay, so I am running for school board because I have been educated entirely in northeastern Pennsylvania and have been raised in this area. And as someone who has benefited greatly from education, it was instilled into me the importance of a good quality, well-rounded education from the time I was little, having grown up in a household, in a first-generation household, being a first-generation college graduate, that education can change your life, and it has for mine. And so over the past few years, being engaged in the current events of the school board and seeing what has transpired over the last few years, I decided that with my skills and my ability and my passion that I could make a real difference.
Thank you. What is your experience or what major accomplishments are relevant to serving on the school board? For 1 minute, please.
Okay. So like I said, I have been educated entirely in this area, so I'm familiar with the educational culture of northeastern Pennsylvania. I am a graduate of both Lackawanna College and Marywood University. While I was at both Lackawanna College and Marywood University, I was involved in student government. I was president of student government at Lackawanna, and I served on the executive board at Marywood. And since then, I have been involved in, I campaigned during the general election of 2016 and during the midterms of 2018, so I'm familiar with the different processes and Robert's Rules of Order and those sorts of things. And I'm also actively involved in the community, serving with volunteering with Fringe Fest, as well as being continually engaged with what goes on in the area.
Thank you. The district, as you know, is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. In 2 minutes, can you tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed in the contracting for services process?
Wow, that is a very, very good, challenging question. So I believe that when it comes to contracting for services, that the policy should be that it should be fair bidding, that a notice should be put out, made publicly in the newspaper, on the school website, on the district website, saying, okay, so we have this coming up, we're looking for this, all interested parties, please send estimates at such time, that all the estimates should be looked at, and the one that is the most reasonable price for the best quality of service should be given the contract.
Thank you.
Yes, without any, and there should also be looked at to see if the interested parties have any relevant connection to the district, personal, professional, and just make sure that everything is done with transparency and integrity.
Thank you. On the topic of transparency, as you mentioned, public disclosure, also known as sunshine, is very
Yes.
important to ensure
Yes.
public trust.
Yes.
Do you support regular taping in broadcast quality of school board meetings?
Yes, I support that wholeheartedly. Since I have made the decision to get involved in this process, starting in October when I applied for the first vacancy. I've attended numerous work sessions and school board meetings, and I have seen that there's always someone in the room taping, and I think that's great that they do that, because that gives a public record for everyone to see what occurs, what the school board members say, what the administration says, what the public says. So that gives an opportunity for people who can't be there to view it. And hopefully that makes everyone who is present accountable, knowing that their actions and their decisions are being filmed and going to be put on the record.
Thank you. What do you feel is the appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight over the administration?
Okay, so the school board is there to provide guidance and leadership, and so I believe that they should be the ones that are very knowledgeable about the different policies, and that they should work in tangent with the administration, making sure that they both work together to provide the best education for the students in the district, making sure they provide the best employment for teachers, for other staff, and that they work in harmony together, being flexible, having open communication, working to view each other's viewpoints, and if there are times where they don't agree with each other, but to always maintain that professional, positive relationship.
Thank you. The next question is just a short answer question.
Sure.
Are you up to date on your city taxes and garbage fees?
Yes, I am up to date with my city taxes and my garbage fees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for our last question, which is also your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should the voters elect you?
Okay. So once again, I'd like to thank you, the League of Women Voters, and whoever may be watching this video. So like I said in the beginning, education has always been a major part of my life. It has been the core of my life. I've never stopped learning, even now that I'm not an active student. So I believe that with my personal experience, and with who I am as somebody who strives to be a person of dignity, of integrity, of principles, that I can bring to the school board somebody who will work their best to do all the research needed before making decisions, that I will work with my fellow school directors as well as the administrators to do what's best for the students, the taxpayers, and the greater community at large. I will also work my best to attend the majority of meetings, if not all of them, and I will conduct myself in a manner becoming of the office with decorum and professional behavior.
Thank you. We have been speaking to Sarah E. Cruz, a candidate for Scranton School Director, running on both the Democrat and Republican tickets. Thank you. Speaking next will be Catherine Fox, running as a Democrat for Scranton School Director. Thank you for being here this morning. Our first question, school board members are elected volunteers unpaid for their service for an extremely important job. In 1 minute, please tell us why you are running for school board.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm running for school board because I was born and raised in the city of Scranton, and I love this city. I have a 7-year-old daughter who is in the school district right now. I graduated from West Scranton High School in 2010. I live here, I work here, everything in my life is about the city, and I really want the opportunity to give back to it.
Thank you. Our next question, what is your major experience or what are your major accomplishments that are relevant to serving on the Scranton School Board?
Okay, sure. So I graduated from the University of Scranton in 2014 with my bachelor's degree in psychology. I currently work at Lackawanna College, where I'm a student life coordinator and veterans advisor, and I'm also an adjunct professor in psychology. I am on the board for Day Nursery Association in Scranton, and I am on 2 committees for the Veterans Resource Coalition in Scranton. My job every day is to do community service, and I give back to others. So I believe that these give me really strong skill sets that I can give back and work well on a board with others. Along with that, and my daughter being in a school district that I went through, I have 5 siblings who are either in the district or went through it as well. So I believe it gives me great experience in the district.
Thank you. As you know, the district is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. In 2 minutes, can you tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed in the contracting for services process?
Okay, well, a good thing about this is that there have been changes made in the district, so we are bidding out services, which is fantastic, and what needs to be done. So, for example, the coveted bus contract, one is up in 2020 and one is up in 2022. So when these are up, they will be bidded. And that is exactly how we have to move forward with the process and how we will. So that's what I favor and I'm for, and I'm very glad that we are doing it. So that's how I look at that.
Thank you. Public disclosure, also known as sunshine, is very important to ensure public trust. Do you support regular taping in broadcast quality of school board meetings?
Oh, of course, of course. We are volunteers. Hopefully, if I am on the board, I will be one of the volunteers. You are there as an advocate for everybody involved, which is students, teachers, taxpayers, and there's no reason for wanting it to be behind closed doors. You should want them to understand what is going on, to have the trust. That is an issue at the current moment, is that the trust isn't there with the citizens, and we need it to be there. And I believe that we really need to build a positive light in the city towards the district and all local officials in all areas, and transparency is the only way to do it. Let them know what we're doing, why we're here, why we want to do it.
Thank you.
Of course.
What is the appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight over the administration?
The school board needs to put policy into place and make sure it is being abided by. So that is the role. They are a watchdog for the district, making sure that things are being done correctly. So they are not to micromanage, but they are to make sure that everything's being done the way it is to be done.
Thank you. The next question is a short answer question.
Sure.
Are you up to date on your city taxes and garbage fees?
Yes, ma'am.
That's good to know. And for our last question, which is also your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should voters elect you?
Okay, so I've been doing tons of research. I'm looking into what other districts are doing, what maybe we could be doing. And what I would love to see is for us to get to a point where we could be an innovative district. It upsets me a little bit to see these districts getting these great ideas, doing all these things that don't necessarily even cost money. And we are so stuck in the past that we're not even close to innovative. And it would be fantastic if we could be, also if we could be proactive rather than reactive to things. I am a very dedicated and hard worker. Like I said, I have my 7-year-old daughter. I had her when I was in college. I always had 4 jobs at once. I have a huge family, and my focuses are always on family, work, and giving back to others. And I love to learn and listen, and I believe those are qualities that we need on the district, on the school board for the district. The school board comprises of 9 people. You want 9 people with different skill sets, different qualities, who could bring new ideas to the table, and that's what I can do. I am 27 years old, and I think that works, that I am a younger individual. I have the energy and the ambition, and I have new ideas that I want to bring forth, and I'm willing to work for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have been speaking to Catherine Fox, who is running for Scranton School Board Director as a Democrat. Speaking next will be Ro Hume, running as a Democrat for the Scranton School Board Director. We will be interviewing her by telephone. Thank you for participating in this recorded interview this morning. Our first question: school board members are elected volunteers unpaid for their service for an extremely important job. In 1 minute, please tell us why you are running for school board.
I'm running for school board because I think that there needs to be a change. I think there needs to be new faces and new vision. I think that there are many things that are well done in the Scranton School District. There are some that have not been done well in the past. Without casting any aspersions on the current board, I believe that new people and new vision is needed, and that if we are to get out of the current situation we are in, we cannot keep doing things the way we've done them before. I'm running because I believe in honesty, integrity, transparency, and I really hope to be able to make a contribution to a city I've come to love.
Thank you. What is your experience or what are your major accomplishments that are relevant to serving on the school board?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a grandmother. I've raised 3 children. I'm a grandmother to 5. I've lived a strange life, as you can tell from my voice. I wasn't born and raised in Scranton. I'm a naturalized American, very proudly, of a couple of months standing. In my life, I've had very close experience with 23 schools with my children and grandchildren. I've been a teacher. I've taught kindergarten, and I've taught as an adjunct professor at university. My biggest contribution I think I can make to the school board is to bring a fresh vision. I'm not someone from Scranton, so I come without the advantage of knowing everyone and everything in the city, but I equally am able to look at things with fresh eyes. In my former life, I was a television producer and writer, and I was responsible for creating various television programs over a 30 years career, and that involved administration, budgets of up to several $1 million, making sure that everything happened at the right time, at the right place. I've got energy, and I'm passionately interested in the next generation. I believe that the quality of education is the starting point for their lives, and if we can't deliver them a good education, we're failing them, and we shouldn't.
Thank you. As you know, the district is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. In 2 minutes, can you tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed in the contracting for services process?
Well, first of all, transparency. It has to be open. I don't believe that any contract above a few $2,000 or $3,000 should ever be awarded without an open bidding process, and I think that should be subject to review and scrutiny. I believe that the last practices of the last few years have led to a growing mistrust from the public and the stakeholders in the district in the way that our financial affairs are handled. And I believe the only way that we can rebuild the trust with people is that every contract should be bid out, and that the process of oversight should be completely open and transparent.
Thank you. Our next question is also related to transparency. Public disclosure, also known as sunshine, is very important to ensure public trust. Do you support regular taping and broadcast quality of school board minutes, or school board meetings, excuse me? Why or why not?
Oh, absolutely, they need to be broadcast. I think that everything that the board does should be available for public scrutiny and for public input. And I'm not saying that the public should make the decisions. That's what they elected school board to do. But I don't believe the school board is acting in the best interests of the district unless we listen to and take into account the opinions of the people who are most affected. The rebuilding trust, as I said, is one of the most important things we can do. And the board, for example, appointing board members late at night without following the proper procedure, contributes to a feeling that we are not acting in the interests of the only people that are important, which is the children. I totally believe that everything we do should be open to public scrutiny and comment.
Thank you. What is the appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight over the administration?
I think the appropriate role of the school board is to support the administration, but I think that can only happen if the administration is more transparent with the board. I believe at the moment there is a chokehold position of information passing from the administration to the board, in that everything is passing through the one person and the one position. And this is, while it may be efficient or may be judged to be efficient, it is not allowing the board to understand all of the issues that affect the district, and it is not giving the board the information to make decisions that need to be made. It should never happen that the administration is not open with the board and does not allow the board to know of not every little minute detail that happens. Obviously, this would be completely inefficient. The board's role is to make and set policy. The administration's role is to implement that policy. But there needs to be confidence that the administration is implementing that policy that has been decided wholeheartedly. And from that, I think that the board's role is to have a clear view of what is happening in the administration and to have frank and full and clear discussions and clear information from the administration. It's a two-way street. It has to happen both ways. I don't think that it should ever be in a situation where the board is faced, for example, as it was recently with the information about pre-K, where the lawyer for the district made a presentation to the board about breaches in Title I and expected the board to vote on that within a week. It caused great public anxiety, it caused great public distress, it caused mistrust on both parts. I think the board's role is very definitely to support the administration, but is equally clear to ensure that the administration implements the policies as decided by the board.
Thank you. Next question is a short question. Are you up to date on your city taxes and garbage fees?
I most certainly am. I actually live with my daughter and her family, and it is, to my great luck, their responsibility, but I am totally up to date with my fees and things. I believe that one of the things we need to do is to collect all those outstanding taxes.
Absolutely. Thank you. And our last question, which is also your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should voters elect you? Please tell us in 2 minutes or fewer. Thank you.
The reason I would like voters to elect me is not because I feel that I will get something out of doing this job. I would like voters to elect me because they feel that I can contribute to the board and bring skills and passion and energy and integrity and honesty to what is going to be, for the next few years, a very difficult job. My mother used to say, it's always best to be there when you don't have a dog in the fight. I have no reason for doing this except a real commitment to the students, the teachers, and the taxpayers of a city that has taken me in and has looked after me very well. I think we need, at this time, people who are going to look forward and not look back. We're in a mess. How we got here is important, but at the moment it's not as important as working to get out of this mess with the most gain and the least pain we possibly can. It's going to be hard. We are in a tough financial situation, and there are going to be difficult decisions to be made. And I think I bring to the board the courage to make considered decisions that have to be made in the interest of the district. I certainly bring integrity. I certainly bring what I hope are skills built in a lifetime of working, communicating with people, and I hope, above all, that voters see that I am doing this not for myself but for the kids, and that I have a contribution to make.
Thank you very much. We have been speaking to Ro Hume, running on the Democratic primary for Scranton School Board Director.
Hi, I'm Patty Fowler. I'm with the Lackawanna County League of Women Voters. And next we're up with Greg Popiel. He is running as a Democrat on are you both Republican and Democrat? Just the Democratic side of the school board. So the first question we have is, the school board members are elected volunteers, unpaid for their service, for an extremely important job. In 1 minute, please tell us why you are running for school board.
I'm running for school board because of the district's financial situation. My background is in my adult life. I was with the Auditor General's office for about 33 years, in which I spent the vast majority of that auditing school districts throughout Pennsylvania. I understand how school financing works. I understand what the problems with the district are, and I feel as though with my experience and my background, I could be an asset to the district at this time.
Thank you. What is your experience and or major accomplishments that are relevant to serving on the school board?
Well, I was on the school board at one time from 1986 to 1991. In that period of time, we always had a balanced budget. We had a positive fund balance, and we paid our bills with our current bills with our current operating revenue, and that's what I seek to accomplish this time around. The district has gotten to a cycle of borrowing to pay for current operations, which leads to ultimate financial disaster. And I'd like to right that ship and get us on a position where we pay as we go and pay our funding, pay our expenditures with our operating revenues for the current budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you know, the district is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. Can you please tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed in the contracting for services process?
Well, as far as contracting for services, all I do and I always will recommend that we, when applicable, bid all contracting services. We have to seek competitive bids and seek the lowest responsible bidder to accomplish the goals of what we are asking for. It's an ongoing process, and it's something that requires vigilance and oversight by the board and the administration. But it's a critical part of the district's current operations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public disclosure, in other words, the sunshine, is very important to ensure public trust. Do you support regular taping in broadcast quality of school board meetings?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. What is the appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight over the administration?
Well, the district, the duties of a board member are to set policy and see that the policy is in fact being observed and carried out by the administration. And it's an ongoing oversight. You have to be vigilant. You have to put your time in. You have to ask questions and satisfy yourself that the goals of the board that have been passed by the board are in fact being implemented by the administration. And it's something that's very important, and it's something that I'm very familiar with.
Thank you. In the wake of recent events, we're going to ask you a personal question now. Are you up to date on your city taxes and our garbage fees?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, for our last question, which is also be considered your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should the voters elect you?
The biggest discrepancy I've ever seen as far as accountability and as far as fairness is what's going on right now with the Scranton School District and the state funding. We have an initiative. It's called the Scranton School Fair Funding Program. This is something that I've been very involved with. And in a nutshell, it shows how the urban districts of the state of Pennsylvania are funded by the state of Pennsylvania as far as their basic instructional subsidies are concerned. It's a 6-page document. However, this is the main page. And if you take a look at this, I know you can't present this on television, but it's very explicit. The city of Scranton is being paid $5,402 per student per ADM, which is an average daily membership by the state. That figure is contingent upon $10 million that the governor has proposed in the current budget. If you look at some of these things, of comparing us to the other urban school districts, we are drastically underfunded. The biggest example that I could cite is between Scranton and the City of York School District. The City of York School District receives $71,537,000 in basic instructional subsidy. The City of Scranton, if the $10 million comes through, is $53,870,000. They have 2,000 less students in the district than the City of Scranton. It's unbelievable. We get $5,400 per student. They get $9,000 per student. There's no rationale in this. We are being ripped off by the state of Pennsylvania, and that is our major funding discrepancy. And I'd like to see this absolutely taken care of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we're speaking with Tom Schuster. Tom Schuster is running for the Democrat and Republican on both sides, correct?
That is correct. I'm also running for the 4-year school board seat as well as the 2-year seat.
Great. Okay. So let's start. The school board members are elected volunteers, unpaid for their service, for an extremely important job. And please tell us why you were running for school board.
All right. Well, I come from the field of behavioral health. I went to school at Penn State University for psychology and business, and then the last time I was here, I was in the process or halfway through my master's degree at the time. I've since completed that degree. So working in that field, I've worked in several different school districts, more specifically in Luzerne County. But for 6 years, I got to spend some time in some of the Scranton School District schools, and I got to see the differences between school districts, the way the administration runs, the way things are on the ground. So seeing that, it prompted me to put in for a board appointment at the time. After going through that board appointment, I realized that there was more to be seen here with the school board, and I needed to get into that. And at that point, I did not get that appointment, and within weeks, I decided I would be running for an election. So at that time, my goal was to balance out the Scranton School Board. At the time, it may have been, and I hate going into minority majority, but it may have been 8 votes to 1, 7 votes to 2, something like that. And it seemed like all the voices weren't being heard on the board at that time. So my goal was to just balance out the board into somewhat of a split. I felt if it could be somewhat equal, you'd get more conversation going with each issue. You'd get better uses of taxpayer money, things like that.
Great.
So that's the reason I got into it.
What is your experience and/or major accomplishments that are relevant to serving on the board?
Well, when I started off running, I ran in 2011, I ran in 2013, won in 2015, and now I'm up for re-election. At that time, I ran on a campaign of an open, transparent board with communication with the public. I wanted to see things get out of the back room, and we had an example of that actually this week where some board members tried to pull an issue into the back room rather than have discussion on the floor. We brought it out to the floor later in the night. This is what I think I brought to the board. I think I bring an open, transparent board. I feel like I've been a watchdog for taxpayer money, making sure it's going in the right direction, and with that, making sure money is going into the right direction to improve student achievement, or at this point in time with the district, to not to diminish that in any way.
Thank you. As you know, the district is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. In 2 minutes, can you please tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed and the contracting for services process?
All right, so with contracting of services, this was something I spoke about the last time. Well, we didn't speak about it the last time I was here, but the last election, it was a big issue. At that point in time, I was pledging to make sure that we got a bid timeline to bid out all contracted services. From day one of the board, me and one of the other members of the board pushed for a bid timeline, and it did take quite a long time to get that. I would say from taking office in December of 15, it took at least 2 years to get the administration working on a bid timeline. So by the time we got a little bit more help on the board and another election through, we did get a bid timeline that we started putting services out to bid. And even with that, each time something comes up for bid, we still have to fight tooth and nail to get it to come to bid. In 2016, the busing contract came out to bid, and I was one of the 3 board members that was in favor of putting it out to bid rather than just extending the contract. So it's something I've always been pushing for. It's something I've been working towards, and it's something I'll continue to fight for. Some of the other things too were Administrators can't approve certain bids for certain projects, whether it be construction projects, emergency projects if there's a leak in the school, pipes leaking, things like that. And there is a minimum number there that it has to be put out to bid. But I've always been pushing for at least 3 quotes from these services, and it's something that we have not always gotten, and I've had several fights with members to make sure we're getting these bids.
Thank you. Public disclosure, in other words, the sunshine, is very important to ensure public trust. Do you support regular taping and broadcast quality of school board meetings?
Yes, and this is also something I've discussed in the past. It's something I've asked for at meetings. I've asked for what it would cost, and maybe you could help me with some of that afterwards to see the cost of that. But at the time, still even at this time, I mean, we're having financial troubles. So we've been pushing to get them on the website, and they are pretty quick on the website with the meetings. I've also pushed for the committee meetings to be taped, because we did have some issues where important discussions were had during committee meetings, and only to find out later that these meetings weren't taped, even though there was a camera in the room. So it's something I'd like to see, but it was fought against at the time, saying that we didn't have the money to have these things televised, especially live.
Thank you. What is the appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight for the administration?
So I think with the oversight with the administration, it would be holding them to task, making sure that we're getting what we need from the administrators, making sure that they have a certain skill set, and that's something that's going to be coming into play right now, because we have several positions that we're going to be interviewing for. The assistant business manager is one, a superintendent will be coming up soon, IT director, buildings and grounds. What the board needs to do is make sure that processes are being followed during the hiring, and that we're hiring the right people for the right job, making sure that there's the skill set for that job that's required is the skill set of the person that we're hiring. And I think that leads into a lot of the issues that we have sometimes. Right now in the school district, I mean, for years, there haven't been systems in place, and this is something that the recovery officer is now talking about, is getting these systems in place. They're really surprised that they haven't been there, and we've been bleeding out money for years because these systems aren't in place. And I think that all coincides with each other there.
Thank you. In light of recent events, we're going to go personal here. Okay. We'd like to know if you're up to date on your city taxes and garbage fees.
I am up to date on my city taxes and garbage fees. I actually, right here, I have a letter that came from the city. I just recently moved in January, and it's due on the 31st of May, which will be paid, but I do have to contact the city, because if you could see here, they sent a handwritten letter to my home, but the garbage fee is in the previous owner's name.
Yeah.
So it's something that the city might have to take a look into and make sure. And I'm also going to follow up on my previous home to make sure that the new owners are paying their fee and it's not in my name.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for our last question, which can also be construed as your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should the voters elect you?
I think the voters should elect me because, well, I'm going to say this. The last time that I was here, I said that I would be a divergence from what was seen on the board in the past. So that was probably like a direct quote from that interview. I think I've proven that. I have always voted on the side of transparency. I've always voted on the side of keeping the taxpayers in mind. I have a record to stand on now. At that point in time, it was talk. Now I have a record. So I think I've proven I'm a clear divergence from what was there in the past. I'm not status quo. And at that point in time, I did ask the voters to please get out and vote. And if they want to change, to vote for that change. And I'm really happy to say that at that point in time, I could say thank you to all of you for giving me that vote and voting for that change. Right now on this board, there's 2 different sides. There's a side that's acting going towards transparency. There's a board that's looking to get systems in place. There's a piece of this board that wants to put policy in place and is actively putting policy in place, looking for best practices for the district. And then there's a side of the board that's violating sunshine, that's working in the back room, that doesn't involve all the board members in decisions that are being made. They just push the thing through. And I will say again, looking back on my record, I could stand by it. I'm very proud of it. It is a clear divergence from that status quo, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to ask questions in public. And I think because of that, how we're going about that and pushing everything out to the front and pushing everything out to the, to the public, you're seeing that in the newspapers.
Yes, thank you. We've been speaking here with Tom Schuster, and he's running for school director on both tickets. And now we're speaking with Tara Yanni. Tara Yanni is running for the school board on both the Democratic and Republican sides, correct?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with our first question.
Okay.
School board members are elected volunteers, unpaid for their service, for an extremely important job. In 1 minute, please tell us why you were running for school board.
I'm running for school board because I'm the parent of 2 children who have been through the district from 3-year-old preschool on up. My younger son is graduating in June, so I feel that I know the district well. I've spent a lot of time in the schools on the PTA, and I also have a unique background in healthcare and finance. So I've always worked in finance and in business, and I feel that now's my time to pay back. I'm going to have the time, the energy to devote to this position, and I want to use my skills to help the district achieve financial solvency.
Thank you. Okay, what is your experience and/or major accomplishments that are relevant to the serving of the school board?
Well, that goes back to my experience right now. I currently work up at Scranton Orthopedics, and I'm in the billing office. So on a daily basis, I'm responsible for posting payments, several Medicare funds over hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm responsible for balancing every day. So I feel that I can work on the budget. I want to help the school achieve financial solvency. I believe in the school district strongly. So I've been out knocking on doors. I've been talking to taxpayers, and that's what they want to see. So this is when I can give it back.
Thank you. As you know, the district is facing serious financial issues. Among the issues is contracting for services. In 1 minute, can you please tell us your ideas for what needs to be changed in the contracting for services process?
Well, that's a no-brainer. Everybody's aware of the busing contract and that should have been bid out. I think a dollar amount needs to be set, albeit $5,000 or $10,000, and then based on that, anything above that needs to be bid out. That's pretty simple.
Thank you. Public disclosure. The Sunshine Act is very important to ensure public trust. Do you support regular taping and broadcast quality of school board meetings?
Absolutely. I know that transparency is the big buzzword going around with this. I can say that I'm an open book. I believe strongly in the public knowing everything that's going on. I have nothing to hide. I'm not a political person, so just doing this interview isn't an easy thing for me to do. But I want to answer every question that I can. I want to be as open as I can. I want to change the view of the school district. I don't want people to see it as this private group of board members who don't disclose information. So I want to be part of that. I want to be part of the positive change and be open to disclosing everything, certainly taping.
Thank you. What is your appropriate role of the school board in providing oversight over the administration?
Well, the school board is largely legislative in that it governs. It works in conjunction with the superintendent, who's the educational leader. So the school board is there to set the policies. They hire, they fire, they levy taxes. So that's the role of the school board. It's not to micromanage within the individual schools. That's the role of the superintendent. So I think it's to work in conjunction with the superintendent.
Great, thank you. In light of recent events, we're going to go a little personal here. Are you up to date on your city taxes and garbage fees?
100%, yes. And actually, I've been a homeowner for over 22 years. So we've always paid our taxes on time. We've actually paid them early to get that little bit of a discount. And we just paid off our home. So my husband and I are very proud of that.
Great, thank you. Okay, for our last question, which also serves as your closing statement, how will you be an active and effective board member? In other words, why should the voters elect you?
I think the voters should elect me because I'm a parent. I am not a politician. I don't have any higher aspirations for political office. Like I said, I've been talking to taxpayers and I've been knocking on doors, and they should elect me because I'm listening to them. And they're telling me they want the district to achieve financial solvency. And I have those skills to help the district do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been here speaking with Tara Yanni, who is running on both sides, the Democrat and Republican, for school board voters. We have here candidates for the Lackawanna County Controller running for the Democratic primary. We have Robert Casey and Gary DeBilio. On primary day, May 21st, registered Republicans and Democrats will go to the polls and vote for a candidate in their party. The winner in each party will go on to the general election in November, whereupon one candidate will be elected to assume the 4-year term of the Lackawanna County Controller to commence in January 2020. In the Republican primary, there is an uncontested race, only one candidate, Mary Nolde. She was unable to be here this morning. Candidates will be interviewed in alphabetical order. Each interview will be 15 minutes long. I am Patty Fowler. Speaking here will be first Bob Casey. Good morning, Mr. Casey.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
What are your qualifications for this office? What education, previously held offices, current employment and responsibilities, or community involvement do you feel is relevant to the office you are seeking?
Well, Patty, I'm a graduate of Marywood College with a degree in business administration. I've served 3 terms on the Scranton School Board. When I left the Scranton School Board, they were in a surplus. I served on the NEIU 19 board. I participated in the preparations of budgets for both the Scranton School Board and the NEIU 19. My employment for 18 years was with the Gino J. Murley Veterans Center, where I was Director of Procurement. Under the responsibilities, I prepared specifications, I approved contracts, I approved purchase orders, and I oversaw the inventory control of the center. In 1999, Department of Military Affairs opened up a new home in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I was charged with the duties of opening up the facility for all purchasing, all contracts, and all other related items.
Thank you. What do you feel is the most pressing problem facing the office you wish to hold, and what unique or innovative ideas do you have to address this problem?
Well, some of the ideas that I have to address the problems that are presently with the Controller's office. I'm running on a pledge to be a full-time county controller. I will not have any outside interest. My main job will be the position of county controller. Some of the ideas that I have to improve the office is, one, I would like to have a website where we could put all the contracts and purchase orders online so that you could pull them up immediately. The other thing that I would like to do with the controller's office is I'd like to set a policy where that any purchase orders over $10,000, I will instruct my staff to call the tax office to make sure that all taxes are paid. If the taxes aren't paid for the purchase order, for the vendor the purchase order is for, he will not receive the purchase order, at least as far as I'm concerned, until all taxes are paid.
Thank you. Okay, let me take it into that next category. In light of recent events, can you tell us if all of your personal garbage fees and taxes are paid and up to date?
All of my taxes are presently paid in full.
Thank you. Now, can you speak about the difference between legal and ethical, and to what minimum standard you would run your office if elected?
Well, that's why you have policies and procedures, and that's why you have a solicitor. What I would do on the legal nature is every contract that is before my office for approval, I will have my solicitor review it to make sure that it's not only legal, but it's also written in favor of the taxpayers. The one thing that I learned when I was the procurement director at the Gino Murley Veterans Center was that you could have contracts that are written in favor of the vendor and contracts that are written in favor of the taxpayer. If a contractor comes in and hands the county a contract and they just push it through, I will thoroughly review it to make sure that all aspects are legal and are in favor of the taxpayers of Lackawanna County.
Thank you. Okay, now, Mr. Casey, this is your closing statement. Any comments that you would like to make, that you'd like to hear the voters that you didn't get the chance to discuss before?
Yes, Patty. When I first decided to run for this office, I sat down with a very close friend of mine for advice. He told me that I had to have the passion to serve. Throughout the course of my life, I've had the passion to serve. That's why I want to be a full-time controller. If I'm elected, first of all, I feel that you should only serve 2 terms when you're in a position of overseeing financial situations. The other thing is that I'll be a full-time controller. I won't have any other outside business interest. I'll be there from 8 in the morning till 5 at night, and if it calls to be that I'll be there on weekends, I'll be there on weekends. One thing that we haven't discussed a lot is contracts. And the one thing with contracts is that you need the time to study them, as I said before, to make sure that they're written in favor of the taxpayer, not the vendor. If I'm elected, I will only serve 2 terms, and as the Gerber baby commercial once said, babies are our only business. Well, if I'm elected, the taxpayers will be my only business.
Thank you. We are here with Robert Casey. He's running for Democrat on the county controller's primary election. Hi, and now we're here with Gary DeBilio. Gary DeBilio is running for the Democrat on in the county controller's race for Lackawanna County. Gary, welcome, Gary.
Thanks. Happy to be here, Patty.
Thank you. Let's start off with our first question. What is your qualifications for this office? What education, previously held offices, current employment and responsibilities or community involvement do you feel is relevant to the office you are seeking?
Thanks. Well, first of all, I've had the privilege of serving as the Lackawanna County Controller for the past 7.5 years. And I hope to continue for 4 more. We've taken the Controller's office to new heights over the last 7.5 years. But getting back to Patty's question, I do have a business and financial background. I'm involved in a family insurance business. My sister runs that on a day-to-day basis. My brother has another office. Also, and that is for the past 30 years. I've been the city council president of Scranton in the past, mayoral candidate, and also am the Kaiser Valley Neighborhood Association president. Many numerous organizations, probably too many to mention at this point, but I feel as though I have all the tools necessary to be a good county controller, and I feel that I've done that for the taxpayers of Lackawanna County.
Thank you. What do you feel is the most pressing problem facing the office you wish to hold, and what unique or innovative ideas do you have to address this problem?
Well, I think the number one issue of a controller is to be transparent and to be sure that the county follows all the necessary procedures put in place by the State of Pennsylvania County Code and Lackawanna County Home Rule Charter. It's important that the Controller's Office provides the necessary oversight of the county administration, mainly the commissioners, to be sure that everything is being followed. All proper procedures are being followed. For example, bidding has to be followed. And that's important to the taxpayers because this is the taxpayers' money, and we have to be sure that it's spent properly. Our office audits over 27,000 invoices before payment to be sure that the county taxpayer is not paying too much for goods and services. Oftentimes we find bills that have been coming through 2 and 3 times from different contractors, and we have to make sure that they're only paid once and they're paid the accurate amount.
Thank you. Can you speak about the difference between legal and ethical, and to what minimum standard you would run your office if elected?
Well, I'll continue to run it to the standards that I've put in place 7.5 years ago when I became county controller. I've made a few notes here. First of all, as you may know or may not know, the Lackawanna County Controller is the chief internal auditor of Lackawanna County, similar to, say, what the Auditor General would be for the state of Pennsylvania. I have a 9-person staff, 10 including myself. I'm asking the voters of Lackawanna County to evaluate me based on my job performance the past 7.5 years. Since taking office in 2012, the Controller's Office is doing more now than ever before. We're doing more audits than ever before. We're doing more financial oversight than ever before. And actually, we're doing oversight into areas that were never covered before, such as cell phone reviews, payroll department procedures, purchasing department procedures, timekeeping oversight, and things of that nature. Also, I've instituted the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline for Lackawanna County in partnership with the Lackawanna County District Attorney's Office. As you know, there's many investigations going on right now in Lackawanna County, too many, and it's my job with the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline to hopefully take tips that might prevent fraud, waste, and abuse from occurring. So we're doing that. We take tips on a weekly basis. Thankfully, it's been nothing that has been very major. And I talked about the bidding procedure, and in general, we've become the county watchdog, financial watchdog for Lackawanna County.
Thank you. In light of recent events, we're asking all candidates this. Can you tell us if your taxes and garbage fees are all paid up to date?
Yes, yes, to the very best of my knowledge, there's nothing that is not paid currently.
Thank you. Okay, in closing statement, comments by the candidate, any area covered that you would like voters to hear that you haven't covered previous?
Well, I am a full-time controller with full-time results, as you could tell from some of the information that I've covered previously. I'm responsible for everything that happens in that office. If you talk to, and I have, 30-year employees of the County Controller's Office, they have told me that I put in more time than any controller in their memory since they're, working in that office. My opponent has said that, I'm not full-time, but I would say talk to the employees, talk to the maintenance department people that see me coming and going, late at night. Talk to the sheriff deputies as I leave the office late at night. So we put in more time than ever before as a county controller. As I said, we're providing more financial oversight than ever before, doing more audits than ever before, and the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline is in place. I'm happy to be endorsed by Lackawanna County Democratic Committee by a 29-2 vote. I'm hoping that the voters of Lackawanna County see it the same way. It's been a privilege to serve. With your help, I'll be able to stay and serve 4 more years. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here to tell you a little bit about what the County Controller's Office does.
Thank you. Thanks for watching our candidate interviews. Please remember Tuesday, May 21st is primary election day. Make sure you get out and vote. And if you'd like to join the league, please contact our website and join the league. You can join the league that way on our website. I'm Patty Fowler, the president, and thank you for watching.